Good morning and Happy New Year
Happy New Year!
to our Ashes to Rubies family listening to the podcast or live stream.
It feels like we haven't done this all year.
All year. And we haven't. It's so true.
But we actually haven't done it we haven't recorded for a few weeks.
Yeah. We just took some time off.
Mostly because we've barely been speaking.
Time up to each other?
Yeah.
Or to...
Just kidding.
I think for New Year's, I think for the year, my
just
highlights.
For New Year's. Let's just make it for New Year's.
My highlights was New Year's and Christmas, like for the whole year. The New Year's party was stellar. I met so many new people. We had probably 80 people show up or whatever it was, plus, and the food and the spread and there was games happening and questions on walls. Like it was really cool. It was really cool to be a part of it. You were the head organizer of it. Kudos to you. Props to you. Way to go. You know how to throw a party, a sober party. There was a lady from the CBC there that heard us on the CBC. Not from the CBC, but she was listening to our little shout out on the CBC All in a Day radio. I was like, here you are. Very cool. Very cool to see some people from Toronto and Montreal.
There was another couple that came that heard it on the CBC also because her husband heard it and then told her because she's 20 years sober.
Man, yeah, there were some sober people there.
They were all excited to come.
I'm excited to see what the year has in store. I feel like that I do have anxiety of moving into today because now there's like responsibilities and all of that stuff that goes with.
You've been off work for
running stuff. Days. Yeah, I got to come up with budgets and projections. And
good times. That's why you tuned in. You wanted to hear about that
and all of that stuff. So amongst but the holidays were good. I enjoyed it.
So how do you overcome or combat the anxiety of like, oh, it's a new year, I got to do better?
I feel like I feel like I don't have to do better. Like I don't have that pressure upon myself. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not in competition with myself. So I take it to prayer meditation through especially for the year to come. So I had like a word from God for like our community, but for myself as well. And then I look at the year to come in kind of the circle of the garden in my temple of how God wants to cultivate that with me through my spiritual life, my emotional life, and my soul tie life. So all of those, I kind of like take that to prayer meditation and kind of have a projection of where I want to go this year and things that... I think
a simple answer that I see for you is you don't look back and beat yourself up for all the things that you didn't do well.
I got enough people out there doing that.
You don't. I think that there are like people who definitely live in the anxiety of tomorrow, and then there's people that live in the regret of the past, and then there's people who live in the present.
Word up. That is true. I think the goal is to live in the present because that's where God is.
And I think can we shift? I think we can shift.
We can.
So I've been typically a person who lives in the anxiety of tomorrow and regret of the past.
And the regret of the past.
All right. What's our reading? What's today?
It's the third already. I'm still odd.
You're still odd?
I feel like a small burden has been released and I don't know what to do with it because I feel like I might get in trouble or disappoint you. But my promise this is my bookmark still. And it says, how can I make your day better? What can I gift you? And so when I went through that meditation, it was to do your laundry.
Yeah, that was in November?
Yeah. Like it hasn't been a big burden on me because like the way we live isn't very apparel prolific, whatever. It's not apparel heavy.
You don't have to tell the world that I wear the same clothes over and over before watching them.
It's not wardrobe heavy. We're not heavy on clothing. So like it hasn't been this massive burden, but at the same time, I feel like I've ensued a responsibility. and a blessing on you, and I don't want to take it away, but I want to move into a different. So laundry is now yours.
Thanks.
Like, it's your laundry. Do what you will with it.
Thanks for doing it.
You know where the washer and dryer. Like I said, it wasn't a massive burden. You are not a burden upon me, but I want to continue on how I can make your day better and what can I gift you. So I'm going to continue to move into that in the new year and see what happens. I don't want to get stuck in a rut.
I'm just going to try not to make you worse.
That's a good, thank you. No, that is precious. All right, here we go. When I came into AA, or the fellowship, I learned what an alcoholic was. And then I applied this knowledge to myself to see if I was an alcoholic. When I was convinced that I was alcoholic, or in step 1, when I conceded that I was alcoholic, I admitted it openly. Since then, have I been learning to live accordingly? Have I read the book of Alcoholics Anonymous? Big question mark. Have I applied the knowledge gained to myself? Question mark. Have I admitted openly that I'm an alcoholic? Here's our question. Am I ready to admit it at any time when I can be of help? Am I ready to admit it at any time when I can be of help? Question. Meditation for today. I will be renewed. I will be remade. In this, I need God's help. His spirit shall flow through me, and in flowing through me, it shall sweep away all the bitter past. I will take heart. The way will open for me. Each day will unfold something good, as long as I'm trying to live the way I believe that God wants me to live. There is a lot there. In certain worlds, in the addiction world, we don't like to admit things necessarily right off the bat. In the Christian world, we come under that condemnation of identity. I don't want to be identified as that, although most people would say, well, I'm a truck driver, but like, that's not really my identity. It's what I do. And so I think when I first understood what it meant to be alcoholic, that I had to compare myself to other drinkers, not other people, and that I was physically and mentally different than your average person that can drink safely, and that it was all rooted, and I can admit that, yay, there's my qualification. But then what this is really saying is, have I moved into the solution and live accordingly? So the only solution that we have found to treat people like myself, and maybe you, is that we need a relationship with God. We need a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening through a relationship with God that we continue to grow in. What I have found is astounding, that even my condition that needs to be treated in the way of life, that treats my alcoholism, continues to grow in strength without alcohol.
Can you say that again?
My problem continues to grow without alcohol.
Okay.
And so according to the way that we get to live now, is that I have to come under the realization that this is a daily.
So even though you're not drinking, your alcoholism is still progressing. The alcoholic condition, the condition that makes it so that you cannot drink alcohol, gets worse, even though you're not.
And the reason that I drank and what it relieved me of is my real problem. So this is the spiritual problem inside of me that continues to grow, and I have to continue to treat that on a daily basis through a relationship with God. So that being said, am I under admitting that I need a stronger relationship with God than I did 5 years ago? Do I have to continue to grow in my relationship with God as a spiritual solution to solving my problems? But I think people have a big, I think there's a big caveat. What's a caveat? What's a caveat? Is that like caviar? No. What's a caveat?
So you made a statement. You just made a statement. So, and you could say like, but the caveat is, it's kind of like a but.
Is caveat a hole, like a ravine?
Kind of, yeah, I think so.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So there's a hole from there's a gap. That's the right word. A gap from like admitting what the problem is or even knowing what the problem is. And then really coming into the next part of that is, am I prepared to take this solution? And I think that's the encouragement today is, have I totally admitted that I need to be remade?
You thought you had a drinking problem.
I would have gambled.
Yeah.
I would have gambled
100%.
that I have a drinking and drug problem.
And that if you just could not drink, that you'd be fine.
I'd be fine.
That it just like, why can't I just stop drinking?
And then somebody said, what your real problem is what alcohol and drugs relieve you of.
I remember when you just thought that you had a cocaine problem.
Yeah.
It wasn't even an alcohol problem. It was just a cocaine problem. So then,
because I said cocaine made my life unmanageable. I can't live like
not the alcohol,
but the alcohol and the drugs actually managed my problem.
So when you quit drinking,
sunshines and butterflies,
you thought everything would be great. But what you discovered is that you actually have a spiritual problem, a spiritual malady, a unsettledness, when
I came home,
chaos and a disorder inside of you that alcohol and cocaine was soothing, medicating, fixing.
So much tension.
So when you took away the drugs and the alcohol, the unrest and the disorder inside of you was still there. You could suppress it or manage it for a certain period of time. But once you started to take care of or address your spiritual condition and acknowledge that you had a desire for a spiritual connection, that's how we're created, is for desire for spiritual connection, that solved your problems.
And I think one of the keys in the big book,
has to solve your problems every day, all day. You need that connection every day,
because that's where I get my peace from. That's where I get my comfort from. That's where I get my joy from.
Right. The
relationship of God. And so I came in, and the big book says, as a drowning man with the same what's the word I'm looking for, with the same desperation of a drowning man. And so drowning men, once they are picked up and saved and remade and have a new life, I think now the trouble gets into like, I can easily lose focus and go like, now I'm working on my own power. And so people with more,
you jump in the lake again.
People with different addictions, whether it's pornography or adrenaline addiction, codependency, I think that's a proclivity that we all have, is that we got saved as drowning men, and now we have the power to walk on our own. We
wind up attempting to swim across the lake by ourselves
and play God, and that's where all of my problems come from, me playing God and doing his job. So
do you want to read the
my prayer for you today is that I pray that you and I may be taught as a child would be taught. I pray that I may never question God's plans, but accept them gladly. May God be your father today, whatever that brings up. God is a good dad. May he be your employer. May he be your director. May he be your principal. Those are concepts that we have in the spiritual solution of God. So we just keep the peace, be a good behavior, and we'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing. Bye.
Thanks for joining.